And my compliments to the club. I had the 30-second elevator speech from Mike, your former president, and it's really interesting. American Youth Hostel was a predecessor of this group, I believe. They have been American Youth Hostel. There's a group in Columbus, Ohio called Columbus Outdoor Pursuits, and they are doing similar stuff. They still have a major bicycle component down there. But part of this also split off to become Bike Centennial, which has become the people that make all the maps. Their name will pop in my head and I'll shout it out. But so that's a tremendous legacy that's behind you guys. I think it's important that we repeat that. So thank you, Mike, and thank you, President Mary, and all your board for your hard work. If you're at all interested, it's a very important thing. Excuse me, my watch is beeping. I fixed it. It's important for these clubs to be present. I'm a huge advocate of bicycle advocacy, actually. One of my other tour leaders, a guy named Marco Speaks, is on the board of the League of Michigan Bicyclists. He has recently started a new group called Major Taylor Michigan Bike Advocacy in Detroit. His goal is to create a new culture of riding your bicycle in Detroit. One of their goals is 50% of the trips in Detroit to be by bicycle by 2050. They're calling it 50-50. That's a big deal. And Detroit by itself exists as an island. There's no good public transportation. The economic demographics are not happy, particularly. And there are many households where simply owning a motor vehicle is going to suck up 30% of their budget. And that just doesn't work. That's basically impossible. So he's doing a great job in there pushing bicycling. I'm a big fan of local bike clubs. Ken Himes, where's Ken gone to? Ken is a member of CFAA in Farmington. Anybody else in CFAA? It's a great group. They are not just bicycle focused, and it's not just City of Farmington. I've been a member for years. They have a lot of rides. As soon as it gets warm, they're going to be every day. And they are all no drop rides, which means the ride leader is the very last person. So you won't be left behind. And they have tremendous participation, and it's just everyday people. Is that right, Ken?
I would have to agree.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, these are people that show up on bikes that I would give to Goodwill. But that's okay. It's not about me. It's about what people have and where they can go and what makes them happy. It's a beautiful thing. I also would like to recognize there are 3 people who have been on tour in the past. Ken has been on at least 2 tours and maybe 3. Where's Sandy? Sandy's in here. She brought her daughter on tour on the Pictured Rocks. And Lorraine. I did the Calhaven Trail Tour a couple years back. Yep. Good, thank you. We are grateful for all of our past customers. I have 3 PowerPoint presentations. I'm going to start a timer, otherwise I'll be in trouble. 3 PowerPoints tonight. The first one was written for a different group, and that's just fine. I wrote this for the Dexter Wellness Center a year ago, to talk to people about, if you have a bike at home, what do you do with it? So this is tips for fitting the bicycle. How do you add bicycling to your workout? Instead of just some eye candy that sits in the garage and gathers dust, what do we do with it? So how many people have a bike at home here? A lot of them. How many people have ridden it 100 miles in the last year? Okay. No, in the last 12 months. No, that's good.
That's a good question.
Yeah. And what is it that keeps you from riding more? Work and weather, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So I look at this from my viewpoint, which of course is on high, but what support is there for us as adults? And most of the people here, I would say a fair portion are either retired or could be if they chose to be. So what helps you, what's available for us to get out on bikes? And I wrote a program for the League of Michigan Bicyclists. We did it 2 years ago. There were 4 different sessions. They were lunch and learn kind of thing on a Zoom conference. And the first one was our institutional partners. Who owns a bike trail and how are they interfacing with the bicycle community? So the border to border trail spans from Ypsilanti to Chelsea. That's the full width of Washtenaw County. There's a spur that goes up. It will eventually get to Stockbridge, which is in Ingham County. I think it's Ingham, or I'm sure it's Ingham. There's another spur that goes from Dexter up to the Metro Park. And from there, there's an additional spur going north to the Mike Levine Lakelands Trail Linear State Park. And that goes from Hamburg to Jackson. So we're getting all this stuff connected. This is a great thing for us. We've got the border to border trail close by. Huron-Clinton Metro Parks. Detroit, being a city of a particular age, has some wonderful metro parks in the neighborhood. How many people have the Metro Park Pass on their car? So you get it. You get it right there. Michigan DNR. All of our state parks have trails. Some are paved, some are not, but this is all stuff for us. Another overlooked institutional partner, Michigan DOT, Department of Transportation. They have divided the Lower Peninsula right down the middle and twice this way. So there are actually 4 maps on the west side and 4 maps on the east side. There's a separate one for University District, which is Detroit, Lansing, just down here. There are also 3 maps for the UP. So these are quite detailed maps, easy to read, and they have color-coded them. So green roads are low traffic, yellow roads are a little bit busier, and red roads we're going to leave for other people, if you understand what I'm saying.
And these are like large fold-out maps. They are. You can look at it very quickly and say, oh, we're not going that way.
Yeah, they've been a tremendous aid to me running this business. So our institutional partners, they own trails. They want to see us in there. They absolutely want to see people all the time. Part 2 of this presentation was on local bike shops and how you find support that way. Having a relationship with a bike mechanic, for me, is important. I'm the tour chief. My equipment cannot fail on tour. That's just can't happen. So I go to the bike shop and they say, well, this is come and due. I don't want to wait. Do it now. And I'm not going to do it. I can do an emergency repair on your bike and it'll be good enough to get us to where we can get it correctly done. But it's a skill, you know, for people, particularly with index derailleurs, you know, you just click them and they shift. I could do it if that was all I was doing. But to remember it from now and even for a week can't be done. So I'm real fond of our local bike shops and the ones who do good jobs. This fellow in the photo, Jackson Farley, he's another one of our tour leaders. And this photo is a great one. A little segue here. That's a U-Haul truck. All the U-Haul trucks that are bigger than 12 feet have got the 3 wooden rails. I don't know if you can see them in there. And right up here, maybe you can see there's, well, where that top wheel is, there's 2 zip ties holding it to the side of the truck. We have really 2 kinds of tours. Ones that go in a loop where we start somewhere and we end up there when the tour is over. And then we have linear tours which start at point A and go to point B. And what do we do to get between them? And I'm kind of OCD and I have to be in control and tell people what to do. So this is a great example. We have 2 new tours this year, Great Lake to Lake. It's going across lower Michigan, 200 miles, 100% paved, about 85% rail trail, traffic free. One of them starts in Bay City. So people come into Bay City on a Sunday and we ride down to Lake Huron and dip 1 tire in the water and get a picture. And it'll be either 10 or 25 miles of riding that day. And when we get back to the hotel, we're going to do this with all the bikes. We're going to get them loaded in our U-Haul truck. Monday morning, I've already hired the motor coach, pulls up, a big bus pulls up, everybody gets on the bus. We go across the state to Holland to begin bicycling back. We have an overnight in Holland because that town has some magic to its name. It just does. And when we get there, it'll be optional riding in the afternoon. So people can go to dunes, to the state park that's right there in Holland. And then if you go north from there, there's a dune. Yeah, the sand dunes are out there.
Wilson Dune, Saugatuck Dune.
But there's also, you can go south to Saugatuck and still get back to the hotel in time. And then we start bicycling back. The first day out of Holland is from Holland to Big Rapids. That's about 45 miles. It's either on side path or local bike trails. There's probably 5 miles on city streets, but these would be on low speed limit streets because all the trails just don't go through everywhere. We overnight in Comstock Park, which is on the west side of Grand Rapids, right on the White Pine Trail. The next day we go north to Big Rapids, and we pick our cities to stay in because they have the support that we need, lodging and dining and a grocery store. From Big Rapids, that whole day is 100% rail trail. From Big Rapids, we go north to Reed City.
Mm-hmm.
Reed City, there's an intersection of the White
Yeah.
Pine and the Pierre Marquette Trail, and we turn east on Pierre Marquette, and we go to some little town, Farwell, or some little town for lunch that's on the trail, and you can have our SAG lunch. We have a lovely SAG lunch every day, or there's the College of Knowledge, which is where all the locals go, and you can hear the real truth about stuff if you go there. And then we end up that day in Clare. And then from Clare, we have the longest day on this tour, which is to Midland and then back to where we started in Bay City, and then people go home. The other version of that starts in Muskegon because I have guests who said, we really want to come by ferry from Milwaukee. So there are 5 people from Milwaukee taking the ferry. There are 3 others also on the same ferry crossing. There are other people showing up by automobile. And we essentially do the same thing. We start off with a tire dip in the water over there. We box up their bikes. And then the next morning we come to Bay City, where we go out to the water. We're going to start at the state park. And we're only going to Midland that night. Midland has the Tridge. Has anybody been to the Tridge? It's a really cool 3-sided bridge right smack in downtown Midland. And we're going to stay there and enjoy an overnight in Midland. I've never done that. It'll be a new thing. And then Midland to Clare, which is another short day, but we have 2 stops that day. Remember when the dam failed 4 or 5 years ago? Washed everything away? It's rebuilt and they're filling it right now. Our first SAG stop, 10 miles out, is in Sanford at the dam failure site. I think that's going to be cool. We go out from there a little bit further, and then we go north on county roads through Amish country. And we're going to see the horses clip-clopping somewhere and probably stop and get some good food from the Yoders. I know that sounds stereotypical, and it is, but it's Amish territory out there, and we'll get a taste of that before we get back into Clare. And then from Clare to Big Rapids to Grand Rapids, Comstock Park. And then getting back to Muskegon, it would be 100% trail, but they closed the trail last summer to rebuild it. Scheduled opening is the end of July. This tour is the first week of August. Place your bets here. I'm not putting any money on it. So we have a perfect workaround on county roads. I was out in October. I rode it in a figure 8. So I had experience on 2 sets of roads, and there's just no traffic. So it's, I'm comfortable with that. We talked about MDOT before.
12 maps.
MDOT also has a great website. Local bike clubs, I mentioned, CFAA. Jamie Callison is right here, and Lady in the Pink on the far side. Who knows Jamie? Okay, good. And she's fun. This was on the Dirty Double Crossing tour. We take both ferry boats across Lake Michigan. It's kind of fun. But local bike clubs, I love local clubs. I belong to CFAA. I get on a handful of their rides every year. I'm regularly with the Ann Arbor Bike Touring Society. The first ride of the year was yesterday with the club. How many people know about Ride with GPS? It's a great online navigation service. They have published a thing. They have a shakedown ride this year, and they said, we're looking for ride leaders. I said, I can do that. And the easiest way for me to do it, and I read the rules, and it's very simple, and I'm co-opting one of the Ann Arbor Bike Tour rides, same time, same location. I called the ride leader ahead of time. He's a friend of mine. I said, this is what I want to do. I'm not trying to tell you what's going on, but, and he said, fine, go ahead, do it. So now if you go to Ride with GPS and look for their shakeout ride stuff, there's a map of the United States. There's one in Ann Arbor, and that's me. That's us. And it's just 25-mile gravel ride. If you don't like gravel, you won't like this ride. But anyway, local bike club provides the support for me to be able to do that. This is the gravel ride itself from a couple of years back.
Gorgeous.
When you go on a club ride, they are going to do a couple things. First of all, somebody has vetted the route. Somebody went out and probably drove it first and then rode their bike on it. It's not like the first time going in somewhere they've never been. That scares me, and it should make us all wary. So the club has already certified that the ride is good. The ride leader is probably trained somehow. We think most of them are. I've yet to find one who doesn't have some level of understanding of the liabilities and everything that we have to do to keep a group moving. And every ride will have a code associated with it. A, B, C. A is the fast boys. C is casual. B is in the middle, or social. And social is just talking the whole time. And this, and they will also say, if they're a no drop ride, they will say that no drop means if you're new, you can go along. You're not going to be left behind in the woods. Defend for yourself. What to expect? I think we already did this. Yep. Okay. I don't have to say it. This bottom line is important. Regardless of the crowd size or distance, the club wants you to be comfortable on your ride. Just like you guys on all your hikes, you want everyone well prepared. The club feels the same way. Make sure your equipment's in working order before you go out. There are dozens of organized rides across the state, and they will range from 20 people to 1,000 people. You can frequently tell that by looking at the website that's offering it. A lot of club rides will start at one location, and they'll have 3 or 4 different distances, the 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 miles, whatever. And that gives you great options. Again, fully vetted routes with support along the way. A lot of the organized rides will have if they've got multiple routes, they'll have a meeting point at the halfway of the longest ride where they put their lunch stop, and the other rides get out that far, kind of thing. So let's move on to smartphones. How many people have a smartphone? Is there anybody that doesn't? I don't want to know. I have my phone running in the car all the time. I know where I'm going, but I just, I like the blue line there, or the one that tells me distance or what time I'm going to arrive. It's just kind of I get it, but it's nice to have that backup. I do the same thing on the bike. I never go on the bike if I haven't thought in my head, where am I going first? How am I going to get there? Is it safe to do? And I always tell my wife, if I'm off by myself or on a club, doesn't matter. It's just one of the safety steps that's important when we try to be adults on bicycles. So I use Ride with GPS absolutely all the time when I'm on the bike. I typically have 4 different things. Apple Watch running on my iPhone. I'll have Ride with GPS. I have an electric bike, and that's Bluetooth to the phone. There's another nav app on there, and there's probably one more. So there's too much data, but it's a beautiful thing when it's all done. But I like Ride with GPS. The routes are easy to create, easy to share, and if you study it and work with it, they become understandable. I got a referral. I wasn't looking for this. A local bike shop in Ann Arbor, a gal came in and said, I don't know how to do this. And the fellow said, you should talk to Jim. So Monday, I have an appointment with her at the Dexter Library because it's a neutral place and there's good Wi-Fi. And I've already made some stuff up and sent it to her, but I have a figure 8 walking route in downtown Dexter. And the reason it's figure 8 is because we can confuse the route or not, and we will intentionally do it. So it makes noises if you're off where you're supposed to be. And learning these noises and working with them is really important in being confident when you're out there on your own. So let me just say that I have it running all the time when I'm riding on the bike. I don't always have a route up, but it's always counting the footsteps to see where I've been kind of thing. But when the route is running, my phone is dead. I mean, it's just a black screen. It doesn't do anything until I get, a tenth of a mile from the next turn. It'll say in 500 feet, turn on such and such street.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing. And then if I'm out there and maybe it's 30 miles between turns, which we have that on some of our tours, and you're not comfortable with where maybe you're on the wrong spot. If you tap your screen, it'll pop up. If the red dot is on the blue line, you're on the course. That's huge. If you come on one of our tours, kind of by default, you're lost because you've never been there before. You're on a bike. And I've had calls from people and they say, come get me. Okay, where are you? I don't know. Well, it isn't going to do any of us any good at that point. So, if you were to go home and make a plan to do more on your bicycle, are there any easy steps to do it? And they're kind of hard to see up here, but I've listed them. And this is a good plan, I think. Number one is get on your bike from home 3 times a week. And you're only going to go a half an hour, maybe not even. What we're doing here is conditioning your butt and your hands. My hands wear out faster than anything else. I have trouble hanging on. 3 times a week, just go for a ride around the house. You're going to learn bicycle infrastructure at home. There's more of it than you realize. It's going to condition your bottom. It's going to condition your legs. And it will just help make things better. 2 or 3 times a month, put your bike in the car and go join a ride somewhere. It's going to be a metro park. I know that. They're beautiful. CFAA, Ken will help. Ken will tell you. You can go out, look up CFAA online, and they would love to have you join anytime. I'm not trying to steal membership from here for there, but they do a great job. You can come to an Ann Arbor Bike Tour Society ride. You can come to, I think most clubs, it's 3 rides and then you have to pay. And that's because the club is buying insurance. Anyway, 2 or 3 times a month, go somewhere, ride with other people for a bigger distance. And we're not doing marathon distances here. 15 miles might be it. And that, if you're going slow, that would take 2 hours. But just get used to doing it. Once a year, go on a week-long adventure. If you did this plan, if that was your goal, and you did 3 rides a week times 24 weeks at 10 miles, that's 720 miles. You do 2 rides a month times 6 months at 20 miles each, that's another 240 miles. If you did a week in 5 days and you cover 200 miles, that's a grand total of 1,160 miles on 90 rides and about 12 miles a ride. Now, if you're not a data freak, it doesn't matter. But I put down every ride I do, how many rides I did that day. Yesterday I did 2 rides. I did the club ride, and then it was such a nice day, my wife and I went out. So I had a 38-mile day, which is the high water mark for the year, but doesn't matter. It goes on my log, and I record the total distance how much of it was on public road, and how much of it was on rail trail. And I will probably be, for my rides from home, I will probably be about 60% rail trail, just because the B2B trail is right there. At heart, I am a road rider. I am comfortable on the roads. I like to go fast. I have a electric bike, and if I'm by myself, I'm usually in high output, going as fast as I can, which will be 22 or 24 miles an hour. The bike caps at 28. I can hit it, but I can't maintain it. That's one of the beauties of being old. And if I'm with guests or on a club ride, I go the speed the group is going, because when you get to the lunch stop, you have to be able to talk to your friends. So, in conclusion, know your institutional partners, the people who own bike trails who want you to come and visit them. The metro parks are really remarkable. There's still a link to that meeting, and I should send it to your group, because they were talking about the process of getting infrastructure in place. It's giving birth and then some. I mean, it's 10 years to get a right of way and get it cleared, get all the easements, get it paved, get it up and running. Know your local vendors, especially a good local bike shop. Check out there's got to be 100 bike clubs across Metro Detroit. It doesn't take a lot of skill to find one. You should do that. And then you should plan and keep a regular ride schedule so the bike becomes part of your wellness program. So I just put some photos up here because it's fun to talk about where we've been. Anybody been here?
Yeah.
This is in the pictured rocks, very close to Chapel Rock Beach. Down the road from that, we got a big bridge. There's a waterfall at the end of the Niagara River. This is the
Oh, here we go.
this is the Roger Blau. It's dead, 40 years old, and they had a fire down below the smokestack. It burned their conveyor, and it warped all the metal down there. It will never be fixed. It's going to go to scrap. It's a shame. But, here's a great example of people on a bike trail. And the problem, who can see the problem with this photo? Raise your hand.
They're from Europe.
And this is human nature, because cyclists will do it too. We're all just people. Two people out walking. Actually, I think there's another photo. Sorry, there isn't. Another photo that I have in one of the other things, where two people, they've got the center of the trail between them, and they're each halfway to the outside. And that's just, and you see it if you're in a metro park and you see a family and they've got kids and dogs on a leash. And I have an electric siren on my bike because I don't like to talk to people. I'll just, well, they're going to get scared regardless. It's easier for me just to push the button. And it's the meep meep sound from the Roadrunner that I like. And, a lot of people say on your left, and I've seen people, this is the left, and they'll spin this way.
Spin to the left.
Into the left. So I think that's wrong. In most instances, if I have to talk, I'll say passing, just passing. Be aware that you're not the only one out here.
I've stopped. I just start I will slow down to the point I can put a foot down. I'll ring the bell. I'll say on your left, and I'll just watch them because it's going to be entertaining either way. And I'm going to be way less frustrated not trying to make my way around
and
it.
a lot of times there's earbuds. I don't want to hit anybody. Nobody wants that. But it can be an issue. So do you want to swap to the next? While you do that, I'm going to just run down the. You can pick either one, but what are the choices?
Or where to ride.
Where to ride. So this is our newest poster, and our tour mix has changed so dramatically in the last 5 years. We now have 8 tours that are more than 2/3 rail trail, and that includes, we do Ohio River to Lake Erie. That's Cincinnati to Cleveland. Our longest tour is 330 miles. It's longest distance, 8 days, 7 nights. It's the longest duration. It is about 90% paved and about 90% rail trail. And that's really significant. The parts that are not on the rail trail are a few city streets in Columbus and a few towns where the rail trail comes in one end and it picks up on the other, and we have to get between them, and it's usually 25 miles an hour. And then a gravel road in the Cuyahoga National Park. And it's not really a gravel road, it's a gravel or natural bike path. But the change in our the rail trail offerings has been dramatic. So we've got OTET, we're doing GAP, which is Cincinnati, which is Pittsburgh to Cumberland, Maryland. Special thing about the GAP, we added a layover day in the middle of it in Confluence, and we're going to backtrack to Ohiopyle. Anybody familiar with these towns? And if we don't backtrack, you can't see what's there. And we're going to spend a whole day doing it and possibly get up to Fallingwater. That's time dependent. And when we leave there, we have 2 nights in Frostburg, and we actually get to the pot. No, we're going to drive people up. Yeah. Yeah, no.
Secrets.
Yeah, it's a secret. Yeah, they'll lock their bike to something in Ohiopyle, and it's just 10 or 12 miles up, but it's not, a lot of these spaghetti roads, I call them, and that's, to me, that's all of Pennsylvania, everything that's on the Appalachians. There's no mile roads anywhere. We're all going to die, I swear. So I'm just going to run across the line here. The Dirty Double, and these are in their distance from this spot. So Dirty Double Crossing starts in Muskegon. We take the fast ferry to Milwaukee. We go up to Manitowoc over 2 days, and that's virtually, that's 50% rail trail. We take the Badger back to Michigan. Badger is 73 or 74 years old. It's the last steam-powered coal-fired vessel operating in North America, and it's a hoot. How many have been on the Badger? It's a scream of a ride. I was on it a couple years back, and we're in the middle of Lake Michigan in October, and it's 70 degrees, not a wind. It's a gorgeous day. Captain comes on. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to stop the ship and fix the engines. And as you could just hear the engines go zzz, power down, and we start to do this drifting thing in the water. And I had my phone, and people had been having just a few of the Polish pops, if you know what I'm saying. And so I went around interviewing them, and the same question all the time: "We're about to die. Have you got any last words?" So, but they fixed it and started up, and we made it. About 20 minutes late, it was perfect. Niagara, but the Niagara Shores tour. I have a tour. It's entirely in Canada. Starts in Fort Erie. We take the waterfront trail to Port Colborne, then we follow the Welland Canal all the way to Lake Ontario, and then we get over to Niagara-on-the-Lake, and then we take the Niagara River Trail back to where we started. That's our shortest tour. It's 100 miles, 4 days of riding. There's a day off in the middle where we're not riding. We get a walking tour from the Historical Society. I've probably done that 5 times. Never had the same tour operator. It's the same docent. It's remarkable. And we take the same walking path, but they all have different stories. And it's history that was not taught on this side of the border. We didn't win that war. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Pictured Rocks starts in Manistee. That's 90 minutes west of the bridge. That's our most popular tour historically.
My favorite.
Two of you have been on that tour. I love that tour. We added, we start off with layover days. There's 2 nights in Manistee and then 2 nights in Munising. Layover day, we used to rent pontoon boats. We've stopped doing that for liability reasons. But now it's a great opportunity. If you want to go kayaking on Lake Superior, buy a ticket from one of the local vendors up there. And we do have our own ride if people want to go on that. Kentucky Ramble Tour is our first tour of the season. Starts May 17 in Georgetown, Kentucky. That's about 5 hours from here. Next to that is we go out west. We've got the beer brats and cheese. That's
West.
2 nights in Madison, 2 nights in Spring Green, and 2 nights in New Glarus, Wisconsin. We are never more than about 45 miles from where we start, and we have only 3 hotels for 6 nights, which is a dream for me. If somebody had told me when I'm this age I'd be moving people's luggage, I'd say you're crazy. So not touching luggage is a beautiful thing. Next to that, we've got river towns on the Mississippi. That's essentially Minneapolis to the Iowa border. Overnight, we start in Cottage Grove, which is the south side of Minneapolis. Stay overnight in Red Wing, Wabasha, Winona, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Then we get into Iowa, and we catch a bus, take everybody back to where we started. And the last one on there is one that is a little bit of a misnomer. It says, no, I'm sorry, that's the correct one. Ride the Iron Trail. The Iron Trail Tour is a big loop from Duluth to the Iron Range to Ely, down to Lake Superior and back to where we started. 300 miles over 6 days. There's 2 nights in Ely because it's a great town and you get the opportunity to paddle a canoe in the Boundary Waters. So this is just a selection of our tours. I'm going to check my timing here. I'm going to go about 10 minutes more, and then Jordan's going to talk about bike packing. Cool. So I don't want to tell anybody where they should ride. We have shown you some resources already, the institutional partners, bike clubs who can help you. And we'd love to do more with the smartphone for you. And here's the universe of cycling as I see it. We have mountain bikers. These are crazy people who like to use every muscle in their body all the time. I gave away my mountain bike some years back because it was gathering dust. Mountain biking is a specific thing, and it's different from what we do on our bikes. Trail riders prefer paved or crushed limestone non-motorized trails, and they have a big variety of bikes. And then we have road riders. I would be on the road all the time, except I can't. We'll go. Got these other things. And honestly, I do pick. Yeah, I would be on the highway.
County highways for sure.
Yep.
Long and straight.
On our 2 UP tours, the Ride to Pictured Rocks and the Great Waters tour, we are on US 2 for a portion of the day. And yes, it's 70 miles an hour. It is US 2. The portions that we use are up to the current standard. So there is an 8-foot lane on both sides of the road for non-motorized use. That's for us. 8 foot is a full lane width.
It is also designated a national bicycle highway.
Thank you.
US Bike Highway 10, I believe.
Adventure Cycling Association. That's the group I couldn't remember earlier. And it's their designation of that. So it has multiple, and it's also graded correctly by MDOT. On their maps, they will show a black line if the shoulder exceeds their minimum standard of 4 feet. So yeah, we are on some high-speed roads when we have to be. There are no other roads. And if you're on one of those tours and you can't do it, raise your hand and we'll put your bike in the truck and take you to the other end and let you off. On Pictured Rocks, it's 13 miles at that speed. On the other one, it depends which way you go. It's probably further, but it's US 2 along Lake Superior, Lake Michigan. So you look over here, and it's sand and water. And many were closer than from here to that. We're close enough you could throw a softball to the lake. So
close enough you can stop riding and jump in, more importantly.
Yeah, and we have done that. Mountain bikers have a number of special organizations that represent them. Anybody here belong to Michigan Trails and Greenway Alliance? So you know how they're a very important group. Their Great Lake to Lake route number 2 is what we're doing for my 2 tours this summer. I sent them a note. I said, I just saw this on your website. I would like to use it. They said, go ahead. And of course, we've changed it to a little bit because we can't do exactly what they have because part of the trail is closed. And at the east end and near Bay City, we have to be on public roads, county roads. But anyway, and there's also South Haven to Port Huron, another Great Lake to Lake. There are actually three of them. The South Haven to Port Huron, the middle one, and a little tiny one that goes Petoskey to Sheboygan. And that came from MTGA. I think everybody here is probably familiar with the Iron Trail, which has a figure 8 around Michigan, both biking and hiking. Excuse me. The League of Michigan Bicyclists is my favorite advocacy group. They have an online ride calendar. And we're back to MDOT. I think I'm going to skip that one. Okay, summarize. 3 different types of biking. What's missing? What questions have you guys got briefly for me? And we'll come back to questions later.
Do you want questions now or later?
Thank you. I did take questions now.
Well, I just was wondering about if I was planning my own kind of trip, what are 3 things that I should have on my radar that are important to
I can get into that on mine.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
3, but number 1 is do your online research on the route you're going to take.
Yep.
Google Earth, because you can drag that little man over and see it from the ground view. Is anybody not familiar with that? If you go to Google Maps and you just put in your house and a relative's house and have it route you between them, down in the bottom right corner, there's a little icon of a body. If you drag that guy out and set him on the road, you can see the street view of what's going on. That's huge. That is absolutely number 1. If you don't know where you're going, you're going to have trouble getting there, kind of thing. You probably need a list of, if you're doing it by bicycle, you need a list of bike shops along the way, other places where you might be staying. I'm sending a call to voicemail. We talked about what to expect on club rides.
And how about the 3rd thing?
Look up the restaurants before you leave. Everybody wants to leave. Where's the cheese? I make cheese at home. And if you come on a tour and I'm along, there will be some homemade cheese.
That's it.
Um,
I'm there. You just got me, Jim.
You know, and honestly, I can't tell you that we're going to give you wine and beer.
But
We have to keep things lubricated on occasion. And the tour chief will have a couple years back, we're in the UP and Ham's beer was $12 for a 30-pack. Nothing special about this. It was such a hit. And there'll be a box of wine or 2.
How about the blue can and the lake in the background?
Yeah.
You know.
How many remember the Ham's beer commercial, the bear dancing? Yeah, okay, all right. Here's answers to your questions. Know before you go. Do your own research about the route. Find events that match your. Find, plan your event to match your abilities, and be sure your bike is in good repair. But that online research about the route has got to be first place. It is for me.
So be sure your bike is in good repair. You know, if you're on a longer ride, you have some capability to fix it. Certainly flat tires.
Yeah, and
How much would you be expected to be able to do your own?
These are things I can cover in the bike packing
Okay,
side.
good.
Because the answer from our perspective is throw it in the U-Haul.
You see the caboose there, what does that mean?
All right, that sounds like that's my turn to come up.
Okay.
All right, I don't have a fancy thing, but Jim, thank you. Appreciate you. So if you were to come on one of these tours, like I said, our answer to problems about mechanic stuff would be, if we can get you going, we'll get you going. If not, you're going in the U-Haul and I'm going to deal with it, or Jackson will deal with it when we get to the hotel, or find a capable shop nearby. If you are planning your own trip and you're crazy enough to do this stuff on your own, you may consider something like bike packing. And real quick, I want to start mine. Hi, my name's Jordan. I staff Bike Tour Vacations. I'm a longtime adventurer and outdoorsman. I do backpacking, a little bit of bike packing, touring. I've done canoe trips over 100 miles. So a lot of the stuff you all are doing here, we're all using the same skills. So checking where we're going, telling people where we're going. Maybe you can't fix your own bike, but maybe you know you're on a route where you have friends. And you can say, hey, I'm going to be going through your area on these days. If I break down, would you be available to pick me up? Just so I know in the back of my head. We're going to bring extra batteries for our phone, if that's what we're relying on. Now, if not, I think a flat fix, a spare tire, and tube is as much as I usually bring. One tube, one tire, and a patch kit. That allows me to replace a tube, patch a tube, and if I really, really mess up something, I got at least one tire. If both my tires are gone, I've ridden through a police barricade or something has gone terribly wrong. Now, this being said, I started bike touring on roads on a steel road bike that was not meant for touring, no attachments for anything. I had little clamps that held my rear rack. And we loosely looked at what shops might be along the way. We said, we're going west. We left Ann Arbor and people told us, hey, you should get on this trail. Why are you guys on that road? That's a bad road. So to Jim's point, the first thing I learned was, geez, we should really check the map, because good old Google tried to send us down a lineman's repair line with a big gate that said no trespassing. So you may have a route, you may have Ride with GPS, tell you, yep, here's the way to do it. Do dig in a little further. Maybe you are crazy enough to start going into trail riding or national forest roads or state forest roads. Not always a Google live view of those areas. But things we can do is call a ranger station. Better yet, call the closest pub. Hey, how are the roads out there? They're going to tell you. I've got people up north where we'll call MDOT and they'll say, yeah, the roads are fine. And I'll call the locals and they'll say, yeah, except it washed out in the spring. I guess you could bike it. These are the extra things we can do to get a little more adventuresome, but still feel safe. Now, I bring too much stuff. This is my bike over here. It's a steel bike. I got crap hanging off of it. I could probably get that down to 2 bags. Got a lightweight backpacking tent. It's not specific to bike packing, because bike packing wasn't a word we used when I got into this, like many of you. Came from my backpacking gear. I've got a small jet boil. That'll make me oatmeal in the morning and maybe some soup at night. There's an overnight. That's a one-nighter. We all live in this general area. We have Pinckney, Waterloo, Brighton, Rec. I've done little mini tours from Ann Arbor where we're on roads. We're then on the border to border. We're then on gravel roads. And then we're camping in a rustic site for a night and riding home the next day and getting pizza going through Dexter at Aubrey's. You can make anything bike packing. It's a term the industry's really grappled onto, but if you can strap it to your bike and you're going to go camp it out, or maybe you don't, maybe you're going and staying at a lodge or an Airbnb, bring what you want. Bring what's going to keep you comfortable. Know some of these skills. Changing a flat is definitely going to help you. You might lose a whole day if you are relying on someone to drive out to you, but there are ways around it. I'd be happy to hear what you all might be looking for in terms of bike packing, but I'm really coming to you as someone who did backpacking and converted over. I heard early you guys have trips to Isle Royale being planned. I have backpacked Isle Royale with Jim when I was in Boy Scouts and he was one of my scout masters. So while he may say he won't stay in a tent, I've seen him on that island do it. Now, I heard Grand Island. That was my second bike packing trip. Why do I bring this up? I took that bike. All of my weight was in the back. I had no center bag. I was popping wheelies across the whole island. Had a blast. Steel bike, no shocks. Different type of riding than most people do on that island, but I did do it, made it all the way around. My friend, who came in from Minnesota, she was on a mountain bike. Suspension, cushy, nowhere to put anything. She rode with her hiking pack all the way around the island. Don't let the terminology stop you from having these adventures. Find a way, do your shakedown ride, check your route, literally shakedown. When you're bike packing, it is a matter of what will fall off. When I turn, do I feel all of my weight slide to one side or the other? You might throw another strap or a rope on there. You might distribute your weight differently, but we're doing the same things. We're doing the same things as when we backpack or kayak. We're checking areas, we're checking weather, we're telling people where we're going. And we're taking the gear we have and we're trying not to spend money. We're trying to hang out outside. So with that, I'd like to open this up for questions about getting out into more remote areas or bike packing. And I see one hand right here. A lot. I don't know anymore. I stopped checking years ago. Doesn't matter. It's a bike. We have gears. The whole point of a... Well, when you go up a hill and you pop the wheelie, you know some of the weight needs to go to the front. And I was talking about this with someone. I think a front rack is my next purchase. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I would say the more you can distribute it, the better. But are we going on a week-long trip and carrying all of our food, or are we resupplying? Am I doing... I know. And this is where we get into wanting a million different bicycles and a lot of different gear. But the point is, if you're not going out and getting comfortable doing it, and you're not doing that little overnight, drive out to Pinckney Rec, bike out to a spot overnight and come back to your car, you're never going to do the week. You're never going to even need to carry that much stuff. So the problem my friends have is we buy all of this gear, and then we go to do a little weekend warrior trip because, we like work and they're trying to buy homes because we're young. So, it turns out a lot of that gear doesn't matter. And maybe we didn't need the front rack and the 4 panniers. Maybe we can do it with 1. Maybe we can do it with 2. Maybe you have a buddy come, put 1 tent on 1 bike and all the food and drink in the other one. What other questions do we have? Sure. Oh. This also helps with supplies, if you're out for a day, but all it takes is getting a ride to that car and you've got extra gear there, or on our such tours where some people come ready to ride fully loaded and they'll carry a ton of stuff on day 1 and they realize, I'm going to see a U-Haul every 10 to 15 miles. Would you carry my tool bag? So, but many people will ask a friend or a spouse to be that support driver as well. Sure. And that is huge. Trails like the Katy Trail, where there's these support towns, or if you've hiked the Appalachian and they got the sign saying, hey, the food is this way, that stuff is going to ease your introduction. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people take like the little burly kid trailers and put sturdier floors on them. We ran into a rider in the UP. He had left from Indiana. He had hockey sticks and things were taped onto his handlebars so he could be upright. He had his dog in the back with a pirate flag hanging. He had in his center pouch in the triangle of his bike all of his camping gear. And this guy has ridden more miles than I can count. He's crossed the country 5 times. So what you can fit on a bike and how far it can take you is as far as you'd like it to. But for some of us, the 3-4 day thing is nice. Something that we do in bike tour vacations, you'll hear Jim say, then there's an off day. Plan yourself that off day, because if you're not used to carrying weight and you get to a nice campsite and you've spent all this energy hauling your stuff, might be nice to stay there a little longer instead of packing it back up. Now, if you are trying to move along, the time frame will dictate. Any other questions? Yeah.
So how would you differentiate bike touring from bike packing?
Oh, I love this. I think it's silly advertising. I think bike touring comes from the road culture with our French panniers and whatnot, but bike packing is this collision of the mountain bike world with the ultralight backpacking world, and then everyone's saying, well, I have a bike, is this good enough? If you're really getting into trails, like single track dirt trails, you're overlanding through mud and forest, yeah, maybe we're not touring anymore. We're kind of doing something different, but I don't see a difference. When I leave Ann Arbor and I road ride, trail ride, dirt road ride, and maybe, you know, a little bit of off-roading, to me, that's bike packing. And if you stay in a hotel one of those nights, but you camp the other one, well, was day one a tour and day two was a bike pack? I'm not so sure. I'm not sure it matters. I think all of us in this room are going to agree if you're going out and having fun recreating, you can call it whatever you want. Yes. Mm-hmm. It really depends on what you're riding and what infrastructure exists. If Amtrak is an option, no, not off the top of my head, I don't. Here's my recommendation for all of these things. Ferry rides, Amtrak, call. I would even say for trails and areas, like I said, calling a ranger, if you were going to, say, ride through national forest land, they're going to tell you things like, this is closed, or it's open, but you may need a special accommodation. We have room for your bike, but if you're bringing 5 bags, it may be handled differently. And to Jim's point, the more research you do up front, the more you look for people that have done similar trips, you're going to get an answer specific to the trip that you're taking.
You know, even calling, you know, finding out where there's a bike club in that area.
Huge.
Yeah.
Bike clubs, bike shops, a lot of them are eager to share the information they have.
Regarding the train, there's the train on here in Canal Way, and we talked about it. To take it to the other end, but there were issues with the bikes and packs and trailers. So what we decided to do, and my friend is better at logistics than I am. So, but what we decided to do is we're going to rent a car that's big enough for all our equipment, and then ditch it at the beginning point, and then we're going to ride back.
They're unfortunately becoming very rare, but one-way car rentals are a godsend for things like that. If you call local vendors, say people with small tour buses or things like that, a lot of times they will accommodate you in whichever way you need. A lot of those guys are just running their own show, so that, oh, you don't need my bus, but I've got a pickup truck I could put your bike in. I think calling people that do transportation and explaining, I have this trip, I'd really like to start here, I'm doing an out and back, I think you'll find people willing to help you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Finding other related tour providers, such as maybe like a kayaking group who may have large vans made for shuttling people, catching them in their off season when those vans aren't working is also a nice way to go about it. The further out you go, the more clever you're going to have to be. And I think this goes for backpacking as well. I don't know if anyone here does dispersed camping. Show of hands, does everyone know what dispersed camping is? So this is where we're going out to places and we're just setting up wherever. Michigan is really lucky that the majority of our state forest and national forest land allows for dispersed camping up to 14 days, and then you need to leave the federal land if you're on federal land. But to the original point, call those rangers, because if you say, hey, I think I'm going to go disperse camp in this area, they will be the ones to say, just so you know, there's been a lot of bears this year. That is not on the map. That is not in the, your little YouTube videos. That is direct knowledge for your immediate upcoming trip. So I cannot recommend enough reaching out to someone local to the area you think you want to travel through.
Are you clipping in?
Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
I have flip-flops there, so one side has a clip on my pedal, the other side is flat. When I'm carrying that much weight, I often do not clip in. Luckily, those clips are well worn, so I can get out of them really fast, sometimes too fast. But I find the ability to put a foot down is a better safety factor. And if you're on rough roads, and I'm not going to say gravel because this is Michigan, it could well be paved and still be rocky and slidey. With a lot of weight, I will squat down and drag a foot just to slow myself down a little bit. But the bigger trick would be bring less stuff. I would say that's the biggest thing I've learned. Again, this thing is loaded, but I think I could do it with 2 bags. It would be a tent, a sleeping pad, a very lightweight sleeping pad, a sleeping bag or quilt, a way to make heat, and a little bit of food, and some basic tools. And I'm talking like enough tools that would fit in the size of my fist. And I think that's all you need. That's enough to go sleep somewhere for a night and, again, make a little oatmeal in the morning.
You need
So-
a toothbrush too.
Jim, these are luxuries, sir. These are luxuries.
I've never seen anybody pack a triangle. I mean, I've seen things like this is a bar or something really narrow.
Sure.
And it's like, but how much stuff do you actually kind of keep in that area?
That changes based on your bike frame. So I'll walk over to my bike here. So some frames, you'll see what's called a frame bag that fits in the triangle. Obviously, you then lose your water bottles. This is where you start seeing mounts that go up on the fork or people putting things back here. There is no right or wrong way to do it. You're kind of working with the gear you have. In these triangle frame bags, I've often seen people put soft goods. So they're going to have their tent in there, maybe their poles fit long-wise. They might have a second zipper with all their snacks crammed on the side. You'll see what's called a burrito roll up in the front between the handlebars. Burrito rolls work much like this, which is one of my sleeping pads. This has a nice little roll on it. So when you roll it up, it holds tight. They make rolls that have attachments for the handlebar. Yeah. The width of your bar, obviously this will not fit between my bar comfortably, but if you had a wider bar, you could absolutely put a sleeping pad or a tent up there. And then in the rear, when I first started touring, I did not have one of these packs. In fact, I have never used this while bike packing. This is new. It was given to me. All of this stuff was just in a dry bag and strapped to the top of my rack right in the middle. Yeah, the bike world has really gotten into this bike packing thing. And with that has come lots of stuff you can buy. So a good friend of mine owns a sewing shop up in Petoskey. She made me this. Made it herself, because sewing is a skill we should all have. It's essentially a chalk bag. You could find a climber's bag. A lot of people will hang these off of their handlebars, maybe for an extra water bottle container. She calls hers feed bags. All of her snacks go in there. You're hungry, right in. Now she made this one with bike packing in mind. You'll see we've got several different clip points up and down it, different ways to clip things. And this is what you're going to see with bike packing gear, because essentially people are bike packing on steel road frames, mountain bikes, suspension, no suspension, cruisers. The bike packing gear is meant to just get gripped to it. That's what we call it in stage and production work. You're gripping it. You want to hold it and get it on there. I've seen people take something called a volet strap. It's just a little rubber strap thing. You pull it through tight and it cinches, and literally just strap bags to the fork of their bike. The wheel spins and you take your shakedown ride and nothing falls into your spokes. Well, guess what? You got some bike packing gear there. So again, it's how much do you want to bring? How comfortable do you want to be doing these things? Are we going into the woods for 5 days, or are we just trying to get out and have a weekend adventure? Are there any types of trips anyone is thinking about doing for bike packing?
Hey, George, last year I called Jim and I was interested in the Iron River, and I think you had canceled it. I don't know if it was because you didn't have enough or just you canceled it. It was Wisconsin too, so it looks like we're back on this year.
Yes, they're on. Ken, this is going to be a difficult year as far as ticket sales go. This is not a complaint. It's just, I know today we're not going to match last year's for sales, and that is not happy for me, but that's okay. It's not about money. It's about, can we run a tour effectively? The Iron Trail, river towns in the Mississippi, and Beer Brats and Cheese are likely to not happen.
Unless a whole bunch of you are interested in one of those tours,
And
then please let us know.
The good news is April 10, 11, 12, Jordan and a couple of us are headed to Milwaukee. There's a bike sale at the state fairgrounds, and I have a table there, and they get 15,000 people over 3 days. We have a lot going on that weekend. I think we have some ways to get people to say, oh, I'm going on that tour.
I hope you can do it too.
Yeah.
I have time for one more question. If anybody has anything, or you want to say something real quick?
Well, I just would encourage people to come up and grab one of these handouts. They came from a recent show, but the discount code is still valid. The front side is talkie stuff. The back side is a tour listing, and it's in dated order from May through October. So please come take one home. There's also some emery boards up here.
A little goodie giveaway.
Yep.
Yeah.
What the ratio your private rider tour, like how many guys, how many riders?
Well, we like to have more than a dozen guests, and that would give us 4 staff on a tour.
We tend to, when we're at a good maximum capacity, 10 plus riders, it's usually 2 staffers riding on the ground and the other 2 of us are in vehicles. Yep, and we're kind of leapfrogging. So again, you'll usually see a support vehicle about every 10 to 15 miles out, or if there's a major turn or something, we'll be there.
How many you need to run, how many people you need to run a tour?
6 or 8.
6 or 8, then you will have 2 support, right?
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
on the ground,
Yes,
one rider.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. Depends on which tour it is.
Yeah, I always default to having extra staff because I like to tell people what to do.
Real quick, if anyone wants to like see some of the gear, this is actually loaded. I could go out for a night right now. So if anyone wants to see what I have in there, I'd be more than happy to tear it apart.
I have some maps